My aim today is to kind of carry on from last week, and it'll be shorter today, but this will be kind of the length that we will normally go for, God willing. So today we're looking at what is called the doctrine of revelation, and the word revelation, which is the same word for the last book of our Bible, is the Greek word apocalypsis, which is where we get the English word apocalypse. And so what do we think when we hear the word apocalypse?
Disaster.
Yeah.
The end is near.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have in mind all these kind of disaster movies and things like that, don't we? And meteorites coming towards us and all this kind of stuff, end of the world kind of stuff. But actually, the word apocalypse doesn't mean any of that whatsoever. It actually means to reveal, to unveil, to uncover. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because that wasn't what we were expecting, was it? So the only way we know God is because he's apocalypsed himself. He's revealed himself, and he's allowed himself to be known. God is willing to be known. That's great, isn't it? He desires to be known. In this, we are different from the animal kingdom. Because we have the faculty to receive revelation from God. We are made in the image of God, and he's given us a will, a conscience, and a spirit that can know him. Of course, this image is marred somewhat because of the fall, the Garden of Eden, where the first sin and then infected the human race. And we will look at that another time. But it's caused our faculties to somewhat dim a bit. It's darkened us, but that hasn't completely blinded us. There are two types of revelation. There's called general revelation and there's special revelation. General revelation, this is knowledge of God that is available to all people in every age, in every place. So God has revealed himself in certain ways to everyone. Then there's special revelation, and this is knowledge of God that is available to specific people at specific times, at specific place, in specific places. God has revealed himself in a certain way to a certain few. But the first we're going to look at is general revelation, and this is where we're going to stay today and next week or whenever I next do this. Okay. Many people will dispute that there is any knowledge of God to be had at all. So that's what atheists hold. They hold to the fact that there is definitely no God. That's quite a stand, isn't it? It's a very bold statement indeed. And when the Russian cosmonaut Titov came back from space, he commented, "I didn't see God up there." I didn't see God up there. Yet other astronauts have come back and have been strengthened in their faith. They've taken different avenues and different ways about how they've understood things, but they've come back and were astounded and thought, well, this is evidence of God. But for the evidence to be so firm in their understanding means that they're relying upon their reasoning. And of course, reasoning can let us down. And they haven't been to every place in the universe to discover whether God is there or not. It's because it's just not possible to come to such a certainty, in my opinion. Of course, there is the saying, there are no atheists in a shipwreck. So they'll all cry out and pray. And most atheists will admit to the fact that they pray in certain situations. Still, there are others who believe that there are many gods. They're known as polytheists. This is kind of a bit better than atheism in a way, because at least they're acknowledging there's something greater than them. But unfortunately, very often it's because they've crafted something with their hands, something that cannot see or hear. I often think that about Buddhism and Buddhists with their thinking, they're worshiping some fat god. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. What on earth are they thinking? And then, of course, there are others who do not know whether there is a God or not. It was Huxley who called himself an agnostic, and the term caught on. And it's a bit like those in Athens who had an altar to the unknown God. And actually, there is a real sense that God cannot be known. Scripture says this, truly you are God who hide yourself. And it features a God of Israel, the Saviour. So God cannot be fully known. That is true. But agnostics say that he cannot be known at all. And actually, we believe that to be untrue. Of course, if we could fully describe God, then we ourselves would be God. We're not. And therefore, he wouldn't be God any longer. So God cannot be completely and fully known. It's just impossible for us who are humans. And then there are others who really do think that people are gods, which is where we get humanism from, that man is the pinnacle of all the universe, and we deserve the worship and the praise. Really. And and still, that we hold certain people in as idols. We call them idols. What level of TV program was it? What, pop idols? I know. Well, these are idols. Yeah? Elvis Presley is my king. These kind of things, and you need to go to certain countries. You go to North Korea, and Kim Jong-un is worshipped. It's like a charismatic service. Praise you, praise you. I'm thinking, my goodness gracious. But anyway, that's humanism to the extreme. But all humanism has as its root that man is God. But let's come to the ways that God has revealed himself to everyone. This is general revelation, and it's first of all is nature through creation. And God is assumed to simply be from the very first words of Scripture. In the beginning, God. There you go, that's it. First few words of the Scripture and you're straight in. No consideration that there might not be, or whether there is. There's no argument to say that he is or isn't. He just is. And God created the heavens and the earth. And Scripture doesn't try to prove his existence. God is before all things. Time and space came into being when God spoke. And everything we now see, and actually all the things we can't see, also came into being. And before creation, there was no time nor space. That's a bit hard for us to comprehend. But it's just simply eternity. And his creation is evidence that he exists, that there is a God. And the classic argument is this. Okay, so you have to follow this. I'm sure you'll get it. Right? This is the classic argument that there is a God from creation. The universe is an effect. Every effect must have an adequate cause. The universe, therefore, must have an adequate cause. That cause is God. That's the classic argument. This is something that came up well before even Christ. But if everything has an effect and a cause. Okay, so how do I explain that better than that? But I'm trying to do this as simply as possible as well. But so creation, that's the effect, must have had a cause. God created. God spoke and it happened. And so the fact that there is design in nature shows that there must also be a designer. Yeah, would you agree with that? So Scripture actually backs this up. It says, the heavens declare the glory of God. And what do we sing? All heaven declares. Well, that's straight from this psalm. Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tabernacle for the sun. So the psalm clearly indicates that the universe, what we see under a microscope or see in a telescope, it shows how amazing God is. We know instinctively that when we look at the stars or we hear the thunder, is that a song? And can it be, isn't it? Where we smell freshly cut grass, and when we taste chocolate, God is the one who has given us all these things. And creation has its own language. We just read that. Not of words, not in literal words, but a clear demonstration of the power of God. In the psalm, we see that the witness of creation is non-stop. It's day after day and night after night. And no one is exempt from knowing that God has done all this. Even if you're blind, you still have your other senses. You still have an idea of what is going on. And nature is God's book written in creation. And Paul declares this, because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Now, without excuse, but of course we do hear excuse after excuse. The world's worst scientific theory has taken people's eyes off God, who has revealed his power at work, and placed it in a thing called evolution. I say evolution, but most people say evolution. Scripture does not teach evolution. Genesis 1 says that kinds begat same kinds. So things, the same things carry on. It doesn't teach that a cat can become a dog. A cat can become, there can be different kinds of cats. So that's what's called a different kind of evolution. Species, that's right. Well, that's right. But in scripture it says the words kinds, but it's species. You can have different kinds of cat. You have different kinds of dog, but a dog doesn't become a cat and vice versa. And if you put a monkey at the beginning of a tunnel, which is 1,000,000 miles long, this is another classic argument. At the end of that 1,000,000 miles, it will still be a monkey. It won't be a human. It's not possible. It's just ridiculous. I love nature programs. By the sheer variety of species, I'm watching this new series, Planet 2, and I just feel, wow, it's just amazing, the enormous diversity of life, or those things that are living in extreme conditions, and God has created all this. This is just not possible. And you hear the wonderment from Edinburgh when he's talking and thinking, how is it possible that this particular kind exists? Well, there's a reason for that, because God is the creator. And there are certain species that exist simply to help each other. A certain bee goes to a certain type of flower. That flower cannot exist without that bee, and that bee cannot exist without that flower. So both must have existed exactly at the same moment in time. How was that possible in evolution? And we talk about us, how we are made, how we're wonderfully. It really is amazing. All our enzymes, all the proteins, all that we are made up of, had to come together in a single moment of time for us to be able to live at all. If one of those proteins, if one of those enzymes is not there, we are not here.
We tried to say that we can't professional.
Well, but the thing is that there's not enough time for them. 4 billion years will soon become 40 billion and so on, because they can't fit all that is supposed to have happened to us. And there is no evidence, there is zero evidence of evolution. It is unscientific. Science is supposed to be a repeatable thing, that you're supposed to be able to conduct experiments to repeat what has happened before. Well, science has never been able to do this. This is what's called scientism. I believe in science. Don't get me wrong. Science has brought us a wealth of things, all these health benefits that we get. Because don't put science down, but put down the belief system that goes within that, which has nothing to do with science. Yeah. And it's been said that every atom has the look of a manufactured article. Why? Because there's a manufacturer. That's why. The makers of the programs don't see it as God's handiwork, yet we ourselves cannot exist without God doing all the work. And I think evolution is a mockery. Our physical eyes are so complex, yet people are blind to God. Who other than God can do all these things? William Paley, he's quite a famous guy. He wrote this in 1802, but this argument still stands today, and you'll recognise it probably as I start. In crossing a field one day, I strike my toe against a watch. I pick it up and examine it. I find that it consists of a complicated arrangement of wheels, springs, jewels and balances, all neatly combined and arranged in a gold case and covered with a crystal. Then I know that every tiny piece of this intricate mechanism is performing according to a definite schedule, and each part is so related to the others that the hands are moved about the dial according to a dependable and unvarying routine. Now, having never seen a watch before, or seen it made, I reached the conclusion that the watch had neither designer nor maker, that out of the earth came iron and gold and the elements of glass, that they refined themselves, fashioned themselves into springs and wheels and crystal, assembled themselves into this case, wound themselves up and started to tick. What would you think of my reasoning? You would think me a fool, of course. You would say that my story violates your reason, that the existence of the watch is positive existence of the pre-existence of a watchmaker and a creative mind and imagination. Proverbs 60. The Lord has made everything for its purpose. Just like a watch cannot suddenly exist, we cannot suddenly exist. And we are far more complicated than any watch that has ever been designed.
Spent some time in space. So when he came back, went around talking to schools and people like that, and he said that if you could see the Earth, the planet Earth, from space, you would realise how wonderfully God had made it, and it's entirely different from all the other planets now. Because people think there's another planet there with Earth, with life on it. Yes. But he said, planet Earth is completely on its own, it's set aside.
Yeah. Armstrong is a man of faith. I'm not sure if he's a Christian or not, but
I think he became a Christian.
Did he? After that, yeah. I wasn't entirely sure, but Armstrong was who I was alluding to when I said that when he came back from space, he had a completely different view to the Russian cosmonauts, so which is true. So, well, truly, the heavens declared the glory of God, and no wonder Scripture says that the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Or they have actually chosen to ignore the evidence. However, creation is not the full revelation of God. We cannot get to know God personally this way. Creation reveals that there is a God. It should cause them to look beyond creation to gain more understanding. And it's here that we find that many have been misled down to worship creation or creating other gods. But creation is there. And the choice is theirs and ours to find out what is really the truth. But choose, we must do. But creation is the first way in which God reveals himself. And next time, we'll look at more ways that God reveals himself. Amen to that.
So Ian, before God created man and woman, then God existed. He was a God.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did that go? You know, how does God come into existence? You know, when you think back, it doesn't make you understand it.
That's right. Well, God is easier to understand than to think that somehow this, what we see around us, suddenly came into being all by itself. There is no first cause for God. God has simply existed.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't understand it so much because we're enveloped in this time and space, and we can't think outside of that very easily. But we're kind of trapped in a particular mindset. I
We're
think.
finite and he's infinite.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He's been there forever and will be there forever. You know, and we will now also be with him forever, which also is hard to comprehend, because we had a start because we were created, but he is uncreated is the word we use for God. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But
The only thing, how did it get? So sometimes it's better not to think too much. Just
Well-
accept it in faith, isn't it?
well, yes. I mean, the thing is that we have to come to that point, don't we? We have to come to realise that there is that all of this exists because of something or someone.
Because God created the angels before he created man.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They helped to create the planet, I suppose.
I mean, I don't know there's scriptural standing for that, but they were there, and there was a divine council that existed before the creation, as in our world, if you like. Yeah. It's a fascinating subject. I think actually something like this should cause us to think more, not less. Because if you are really a thinker, then it is almost impossible for you to come to a conclusion that there is no God. It's just the whole idea of the Big Bang and everything else, that somehow all of this came into being from a small amount of matter, producing all the matter that we see around us. It boggles the mind that people can believe this stuff. And I think that's why in Scripture it talks about the wise being fools, frankly.
I know then when you open it, the question I dread is when people come up and say, well, answer me this then. What's coming now? Answer me this as if, you should have the answer to absolutely everything. But I mean, people are curious.
Yes, I mean we should be able to answer. Part of the reason for doing this is so that we can understand our faith. Our faith is strengthened, but we can also answer these kinds of questions that are raised. Some of the questions which are raised will deal with suffering, for instance, which is a common one. But we have to deal with other things on the way, and we will get to that.
I tell people who talk about the Big Bang, and I said, well, none of us know exactly how the Earth was formed, except that God made it, and it could well be the Big Bang created by God. The Hinduist tells us that God flung these stars into space.
Yeah, I think that you have to understand that that the majority of scientists will still say they believe in evolution and they still believe in the Big Bang. In their writings, they are incredibly critical of both theories. And more scientists are coming out and saying the Big Bang theory is just not a workable solution. it doesn't make sense of certain things, like why some of the planets are rotating in a different direction to the others. Because if everything was flung in a particular direction, in a particular way, we should all be spinning the same way. But actually, two of our planets spin the opposite. So things like this, there are so many. There are problems with both theories.
And of course,
So,
like I said, some planets are
yeah,
not just this.
yeah, and well, a sun is a star, and there's trillions upon trillions of them, and that's a number that we can't comprehend. So, yeah.